The Golden State Warriors dynasty might be crumbling from within, and it's all because of a 22-year-old who just turned down what most people would consider a life-changing contract. Jonathan Kuminga has just rejected another extension offer from the Warriors, and the ripple effects of this decision could completely reshape the future of one of the NBA's most successful franchises. What's happening behind closed doors in San Francisco is more dramatic than anyone realizes, and the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about money anymore, it's about power, respect, and the survival of a championship legacy that took decades to build. While fans are still celebrating the Warriors' recent success, insiders know that the real battle is happening in boardrooms and agent meetings. Kuminga isn't just another young player looking for a payday. He's a calculated risk-taker who's betting everything on his own potential, and he's willing to watch the Warriors' championship window slam shut if he doesn't get exactly what he wants. The most shocking part? He might actually have the leverage to pull it off. Just when everyone thought the Warriors had figured out their roster for the future, Jonathan Kuminga dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the entire organization. The young forward didn't just decline the Warriors' latest extension offer, he completely shut down negotiations in a way that left team executives scrambling for answers. Sources close to the situation reveal that Kuminga's camp didn't even want to hear counteroffers, making it crystal clear that their demands were non-negotiable. The timing of this rejection couldn't have been worse for Golden State. With Stephen Curry aging and Klay Thompson's future uncertain, the Warriors desperately need young talent to bridge the gap between their championship core and the next generation. Kuminga was supposed to be that bridge, the athletic freak who could learn from legends and eventually carry the franchise forward. Instead, he's become the biggest threat to their future plans. What makes this rejection even more devastating is the context surrounding it. Kuminga isn't just some unproven rookie making unreasonable demands, he's a player who's shown flashes of all-star potential, someone who could genuinely develop into a cornerstone piece for any franchise. The Warriors invested years developing him, giving him minutes in crucial playoff games and treating him like family. Now that investment is looking like it might walk out the door for nothing. But here's where things get really interesting. Kuminga isn't making this decision in a vacuum. League sources suggest that multiple teams have already reached out through back channels, promising him the role and money he craves. These aren't just empty promises either. We're talking about franchises willing to offer him $90 million contracts and the keys to their offense. The kid from the Democratic Republic of Congo has somehow positioned himself as one of the most coveted young talents in the league, and he knows it. The numbers behind this standoff are absolutely mind-blowing, and they reveal just how far apart both sides really are. Kuminga's camp is reportedly demanding a contract worth around $35 million per year, a figure that would put him in the same salary tier as established all-stars and franchise players. Meanwhile, the Warriors have drawn a hard line at approximately $30 million annually, creating a $5 million gap that might as well be the Grand Canyon. To most people, $30 million per year sounds like more money than anyone could ever need, but in the NBA's inflated economy, those extra $5 million represent something much more valuable than cash. They represent respect and status. Kuminga's team isn't just negotiating for money, they're negotiating for recognition that he's a legitimate star player who deserves to be paid like one. Every dollar less than his asking price feels like the Warriors saying they don't truly believe in his potential. The Warriors' perspective makes sense from a business standpoint, but it's creating a dangerous precedent. They're essentially telling a young player who's shown tremendous growth and potential that he's worth exactly what they say he's worth, nothing more. This approach worked when they had overwhelming leverage, but Kuminga's situation is different. He's not desperate for their approval anymore because he knows other teams are watching, waiting, and willing to pay. What's really driving this financial standoff is the Warriors' luxury tax situation. They're already paying astronomical amounts in penalties for their current roster, and adding another max-level contract would push their total payroll into uncharted territory. The front office is trying to balance championship aspirations with financial reality, but they might be learning that you can't have both when dealing with elite young talent in today's market. The most frustrating part for Warriors fans is that this entire situation could have been avoided. If the organization had recognized Kuminga's rising value earlier and locked him up with a more generous offer, they wouldn't be in this impossible position. Instead, they tried to play hardball with a player who had already outgrown their expectations, and now they're paying the price for that miscalculation. What's happening between Kuminga and the Warriors goes far deeper than contract numbers. It's a masterclass in modern NBA leverage that most fans never get to see. Kuminga's decision to reject not just the money, but also the team's timeline reveals a level of strategic thinking that's impressive for such a young player. He's not just betting on his basketball ability, he's betting on his understanding of how the league really works. The most telling aspect of Kuminga's approach is his insistence on rejecting team options and demanding trade protection clauses. These aren't typical requests from young players still trying to establish themselves. They're the demands of someone who believes he's already proven his worth and deserves the security that comes with star status. By pushing for these protections, Kuminga is essentially telling the Warriors that he doesn't trust them to prioritize his development over their own championship aspirations. This lack of trust didn't develop overnight. League insiders suggest that Kuminga has grown increasingly frustrated with his role in Golden State's system, feeling like he's been held back by the team's commitment to their aging core. While the Warriors see him as a valuable piece of their championship puzzle, he sees himself as a future superstar who's being asked to sacrifice his prime years for someone else's legacy. That fundamental disconnect is driving every aspect of these negotiations. The power dynamics become even more complex when you consider Kuminga's unique position as a restricted free agent. Unlike unrestricted free agents who can simply choose their destination, Kuminga knows that the Warriors can match any offer he receives from another team. However, he's gambling that they won't want to match a massive offer sheet that would cripple their salary cap flexibility. It's a dangerous game of chicken where both sides have something crucial to lose. But Kuminga's real leverage comes from something the Warriors can't control, the perception that their championship window is closing. Every month that passes makes Curry, Green, and their core older and more vulnerable. The Warriors need young talent more than young talent needs them, and Kuminga's camp clearly understands this shifting dynamic. They're not just negotiating a contract, they're negotiating from a position of strength that might not exist much longer. The moment Kuminga's contract situation became public knowledge, the NBA's rumor mill exploded with speculation about potential destinations. Teams that have been quietly building toward competitiveness suddenly see an opportunity to land a young star without giving up their entire future. The Sacramento Kings, Phoenix Suns, and Brooklyn Nets have all been mentioned as potential suitors, each offering different advantages that could appeal to Kuminga's ambitions. What makes these trade rumors particularly dangerous for the Warriors is the timing. They're not dealing with typical off-season speculation. They're facing the real possibility that Kuminga could force his way out during what should be a crucial development year. If he signs an offer sheet with another team that the Warriors choose not to match, they lose him for nothing. If they do match, they're stuck paying a player who clearly doesn't want to be there. The Kings represent perhaps the most intriguing possibility for Kuminga. They're a young ascending team that could offer him the starring role he craves alongside other promising talents like De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. Sacramento has the cap space to offer him a massive contract and the desperation to overpay for talent that could push them into playoff contention. For Kuminga, it would mean leaving behind the pressure of championship expectations and instead focusing on individual growth and development. Phoenix presents a different kind of opportunity. The chance to compete immediately alongside Kevin Durant and Devin Booker while still maintaining a significant role in the offense. The Suns have shown they're willing to make bold moves to maximize their championship window, and adding Kuminga could give them the athletic versatility they need to compete with younger, more dynamic teams. However, their salary cap situation makes any deal extremely complicated. The Brooklyn Nets might be the most interesting option because they're essentially starting over with their franchise rebuild. Kuminga could become the centerpiece of their new identity, the player they build around for the next decade. While Brooklyn can't offer immediate championship contention, they can offer something potentially more valuable, the promise that everything will revolve around maximizing his potential. The Warriors' handling of the Kuminga situation reveals a franchise at a crossroads, forced to choose between maintaining their championship core and investing in their future. This decision will define the next decade of Warriors basketball, and early signs suggest they might be making the wrong choice. By prioritizing short-term salary cap flexibility over long-term talent retention, they're risking the kind of roster turnover that historically kills dynasties. What's most concerning for Warriors fans is how this situation mirrors other championship teams that failed to successfully transition between generations. The Lakers struggled for years after their Kobe Bryant era because they couldn't develop and retain young talent. The Spurs managed their transition better, but even they eventually hit a wall when their aging stars could no longer carry the load. The Warriors are approaching that same inflection point, and losing Kuminga could accelerate their decline. The ripple effects of losing Kuminga extend far beyond just losing one player. It sends a message to other young talents around the league that Golden State isn't committed to developing the next generation of stars. Future draft picks and potential trade targets will remember how the Warriors treated a player who gave them everything during his development years. That reputation damage could impact their ability to attract talent for years to come. Perhaps more immediately, losing Kuminga would leave the Warriors with a massive hole in their rotation and no realistic way to replace his production. They don't have the draft picks or salary cap space to acquire another player of his caliber. Their championship window, which already appears to be narrowing with each passing season, could slam shut entirely if they can't find adequate replacements for his athleticism and scoring ability. The tragedy in all of this is that it didn't have to happen this way. The Warriors had years to recognize Kuminga's rising value and secure his future with the franchise. Instead, they treated him like a role player when he was clearly developing into something much more significant. Now they're facing the consequences of that miscalculation, and those consequences could reshape the entire landscape of their franchise. As this standoff continues, the Warriors front office faces one of the most important decisions in franchise history. Do they break their financial principles and meet Kuminga's demands, potentially crippling their salary cap flexibility for years to come? Or do they let him walk and hope they can find adequate replacements through other means? Neither option is particularly appealing, which explains why this situation has dragged on for so long. The pressure on Warriors management is immense because they know this decision will be judged by history. If they let Kuminga go and he becomes a superstar elsewhere, fans will never forgive them for choosing money over talent. If they pay him and he doesn't live up to the massive contract, they'll be criticized for hampering their ability to build around their aging core. It's a lose-lose scenario that highlights just how complicated modern NBA roster construction has become. What makes this decision even more difficult is the uncertainty surrounding their current stars. Stephen Curry is still playing at an elite level, but he's not getting any younger. Klay Thompson's future with the team remains unclear. Draymond Green's effectiveness continues to decline. The Warriors need to decide whether they're still in championship or bust mode, or if it's time to start planning for the post-dynasty era. The clock is ticking on this decision, because every day that passes gives other teams more time to prepare their offers and convince Kuminga that his future lies elsewhere. The Warriors have spent years building relationships and trust with their young players, but that goodwill evaporates quickly when contract negotiations turn ugly. They're learning that loyalty in the modern NBA is often a one-way street. Ultimately, the Kuminga situation represents everything that's both exciting and terrifying about professional sports. A young player betting everything on his own potential, an established franchise trying to balance competing priorities, and fans caught in the middle hoping their team makes the right choice. Whatever happens next will be remembered as either the moment the Warriors secured their future or the beginning of the end of their championship era. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the entire basketball world is watching to see how this drama unfolds.